Today, AI is changing how fast organizations can move, but speed alone doesn't create value.
What matters is how clearly teams can define the problem, align around outcomes, and make the right decisions before they accelerate.
I'm Clay Richardson, founder and CEO of Digital Fast Forward.
And I'm Steph Lewis, Senior Director of Pega Community and Developer Engagement.
Each episode, we sit down with leaders and practitioners to explore what it really takes to design for value.
And find out how organizations are turning AI-driven speed into meaningful, measurable outcomes.
Welcome to Design to Accelerate.
Conversations on creating value in the age of AI.
Let's go. Welcome to Accelerating Value in the Age of AI. I'm Clay Richardson, Chief Accelerator with Digital Fast Forward, and I'm joined by my amazing host, Steph Lewis.
Yes, nice to see you all again. And this is our first episode with guests. And, we kind of have a little guest here today. I might know you. Small guest. Yeah. Who happens to be.
They was just walking the halls.
Yeah, we were just like, hey, why don't we just grab this guy who happens to be the CEO and founder of Pega, Alan Trefler. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Thank you, Steph. I like being called the founder and CEO because... founders are forever. CEOs, they come and go. Though it's been a while.
When's the last time you had a CEO besides you?
Never.
So, and really, the reason we're excited to have you here is really kicking off this season where we're talking about accelerating value with AI and specifically around solution design. And so one of the questions I wanted to tee up on is, we've talked a lot about design thinking. We've gone through these different iterations, right? Last time I think I saw you, this was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, you were on stage, had big design thinking behind you, and I was like, I like this guy, right? And I'm curious, what do you see that's changed since that time, right? When we think about design and the role of design.
So the last several years have been really amazing in terms of the evolution and the broadening of the availability of design thinking. I think thinking in a design context is super important. But what we did, starting a little over 2 years ago, is began putting a tremendous amount of effort in getting real results and being able to incorporate a lot of design thinking elements into this blueprint technology, right? Which really, from my point of view, it really democratizes design thinking. Instead of having a group of design thinking specialists who go in and bring the magic powder to bring design thinking to the folks who might not have it, this allows the combination of roles in a way that's super exciting and lets us, through our blueprint technology and through the magic of generative AI, incorporate design thinking in the way that people capture what they want a system to do and how they want to run their business, and even to be challenged by Blueprint to do it better than they might have imagined that they could. And to me, this ability to take a lot of the principles of design thinking and have it work in conjunction with AI makes it just way more available and tremendously more powerful.
Yeah, I think something you're pointing out there too, it's design thinking plus the tool. Like the tool makes it easier, but it doesn't replace the design thinking and the creativity. And
I think on one hand it does, and on one hand it doesn't. Because certainly you want to look at what you're doing from the point of view of a design perspective, but many of the things that people used to agonize over. So I'll just give you an example. We would routinely, when we worked with a customer, go in and send a person who was like a certified design thinker in.
You talking about people like me? Why are you? I love this quote, air quote, like you pointing at, and you looked at me when you said that. I'm offended.
Well, you
I look the part.
You are a certified design thinker.
I am a certifier.
Yeah, certifiable. But the reality is, what we're really trying to do is make it so. Well, I'll tell you what the process used to be, at least when I was involved, and you can tell me how this matches, Clay, what your experience was. We would send a couple of these, design wizards in to a big conference room, and there would be a huge whiteboard, and people would draw on the board and use stickies to debate, and they would agonize. Am I getting this process right? Am I just redoing what I've done historically? Right. Am I really doing things that from a user perspective are going to be a good experience or a bad experience? And this had a bunch of problems. First, it's very intimidating to start with a blank whiteboard or a clean sheet of paper. So I think it kind of put people on a mental defensive to start with. Secondly, one of the principles at Pega that is really important is what we call center-out thinking, which I think represents really an important aspect of design thinking. Center-out says you want to design your system around the work your business or organization wants to do. Right. So you don't want to design it around screens, though obviously getting the screens right is going to be super important. You want to say, hey, what are we in business to do? And what that means is everything you design should be intrinsically multi-channel or omni-channel, should be intrinsically available to agentic processing, because you're really designing the work itself. And then if you go through Blueprint, it's not till after you've designed the workflows and the stages and the steps and had gotten a lot of the data right, only then does the AI show you what this might look like in a design and professional way across the different channels you might want to run in. That's a real reversal of the traditional, I'm going to stare at a whiteboard, I'm going to agonize over it and try to get it right. And we find that it's completely changed our business.
What's interesting, I do, maybe a confession I should make here is when Blueprint came out and Pega started talking about Blueprint, I was like, maybe I need to go get another job, right? Because the AI is going to come and get me, right? And in all honesty, just to step back from that, really when Blueprint first came out, I was like, this is a great sales tool for Pega. That was my first inclination.
Well, it better be more than that, or
I don't view
it as success.
Right, but that's where I want to dig in a little bit, because I do think there are a lot of clients that see, what's coming out as, okay, this is great. This kind of feels like a gimmick, but how do you see clients make that journey? And we started this by saying it's not going to be about Blueprint, right? And we're not interested in going deep into Blueprint. What we really want to do is talk about
what's that enabled?
What does it enable? What is the methodology? What is the role that we want to see? And I'm curious, you're sit at a very interesting table. Like, how do you see clients go on this journey of transforming how they think about solution design?
Well, I think that what's so exciting to me about the way we've seen the design thinking morph as a result of this technology is it really makes it so that people don't have to confront that blank page, or they don't have to go through that, that agonizing thing people would do where they would say, I'm going to define my as-is processes in agonizing detail, and then I'm going to suffer through transforming them to No, you don't have to do it. You basically just explain, this is what I want my business to do. And what we're able to do is take our design patterns, and we've put lots of intellectual property into the way it works. We've been able to go out to the internet and say, hey, is there a best practice for doing some of this? We're able to take input from guys like you, Clay. You can take chapters of your book and feed.
I did. It wrote my book.
That's a little scary.
It wrote my book. It was like, I fed it to Blueprint. Blueprint was like, hey, here you go.
Well, but you could, in all seriousness, you could take the sorts of things you teach and give it in. And it does a really interesting job of giving you a way to think about your business problem in this center-out fashion, and in a way that helps bring together the elements that always made building this sort of complicated. It brings together, how am I going to interface to back-end systems? How am I going to work with people? How am I going to define what's going on? And, it keeps getting better. Every 2 weeks, we put out another release of Blueprint on Pega.com. And, the last one that just came out, it's now coming up with the decision tables and business.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, which, and so as we make it more powerful, I do think that this just really empowers people to think about their business differently and actually be challenged by the technology as opposed to having to wrestle with the technology.
Yeah.
I also think, building on that, with the center out, the Pega term center out, but we're talking about like focus on the business problem, not on the channels. That's going to come from the focus, and I think what Blueprint does and our approach does, this is where your focus should be. Everything else will kind of come out of that, so I think it helps with the process.
And I think that's right, and it's a real interesting, it's been a real interesting development, because in one of the earlier versions of it, there was a little button that said preview your app, which flashes which actually creates the screens and the user experiences when you click it. And we had that button available pretty early in the process, and people just love to press it because humans love to look at screens.
You want to see it.
You
How's this going to look?
How's it gonna
My
look?
creation.
And the real thing is, hey, what am I trying to achieve?
Yes.
Right.
Value.
That's
That's the
100.
transition you're
And
talking
that's-
about,
yeah.
Yeah.
Steph.
Yeah.
And that's even a lot of what we're seeing is people use the capability just to load up their documentation.
I've got customers. So look, we have had over 200,000 blueprints created.
that's crazy.
Lots of them are being, some customers, they wanted to know if we minded if they used it to create documentation, that they would just take the PDFs that come out of it and give it to their auditors to explain what their process flows are. I said, no. You know, my take is the more people put into Blueprint, eventually good stuff will come out, because eventually you're going to want to automate some of that sort of thing. So I think that's just fine. But it is trying to encapsulate a way of thinking to be experiential. That to me is the big change. A lot of the way we used to build systems, and a lot of people still build systems, is very theoretical. But when you actually can experience it in the course of a pretty quick period of time, and then react, both as an individual or invite other people to collaborate on it, et cetera, you're really creating a canvas for better creativity and just a more relaxed way of going at the really hard work of change.
What do you see as the limitations? Maybe if I can insert this kind of early in the conversation, what do you see as the limitations of how AI should be used in design?
Well, I think that there's a fundamental question in the whole AI and particularly this agentic universe here, which is the way some people are using it is they go to some prompt studio that a company like Microsoft or ServiceNow or Salesforce has, and they go design the perfect prompts. And what they then do is they run those prompts to really try to create answers in a customer service setting, or to be able to have somebody sign up for a loan, or be able to do a variety of things. That's a very standard way that a whole group of companies are thinking about and talking about how they want to design in this AI world. And we think it's completely wrong.
It's not design.
Because what they're doing is it's abdication. Now, they might say, I'm designing this prompt, but that's not really a holistic way to think of and to understand your system and what its outputs will be. And let's face it, these language models, well, they still hallucinate. They're incredibly sensitive to the data that's available to them at the time that they're making decisions. And there's no ability to observe the design. There's only an ability to observe what happened and maybe understand why it happened after it happened. That doesn't work in regulated industries, or that doesn't work for things where people quite reasonably, I think, want to say, hey, we're going to do design and design thinking as part of the build process. And we're going to build something that we create workflows from. And then at runtime, when somebody actually wants to use it, we're going to use the language model just for English and just for, or whatever language translation, just for semantics, which it never gets wrong. What that lets you do is use the creativity and the power of the language model to its absolute fullness, because you're doing it at design time. But at runtime, you've got the reliability of workflows that you can have curated, you can have observed, and you kind of enhanced. Right. So that's how I think AI is actually encouraging a lot of the antithesis of good design, because it's really saying, hey, just turn it over, let it do it. And, look, if this AGI, artificial general intelligence comes, who knows? Maybe we'll all be replaced by a prompt.
And I hear what you're saying. This is really intriguing, is different design patterns for how you think about agentic design or AI-driven design. one is prompt-driven design. What would you call this other design pattern?
Well, Blueprint is really what some people might refer to as a vibe development environment.
Okay.
Right? Blueprint. And I
What
know
is it
that's
like?
so
Yeah,
Like
trendy.
that's a vibe? Is that a new?
Is it a
vibe?
Vibe.
I'm
vibing
Pega's
it
always
out.
been vibing.
We've been vibing. That's the
Vibing
new.
from the
That's the
beginning.
new tagline.
We're playing with it, but I'll get some design feedback on it from you guys, I'm sure. But Blueprint really is a way to interact with a set of agents that are able to read documents you might put in, take flow charts, take input, take textual input. You can actually talk to it. Be able to
Right.
take all of those capabilities and propose how your business should run whatever functions you're telling it about. And then you get to interact with it, and you get to vibe on, as it were,
Yeah.
and be
Vibe
able to
with,
change it.
Vibe with Blueprint.
Blueprint.
That's a
Well,
thing.
But
No, finish your thought.
but the cool thing that we think is so exciting is Blueprint transforms itself into the Pega model, which allows you 2 months, 3 months later to go back and change things, as opposed to a lot of these folks who are doing their vibe in, but then they try to generate code.
Right.
And the problem with that is it's very, very difficult to go back to a corpus of code and go back and say, I want to make these small changes.
I see.
Because we got a model there, we think it's a really exciting way.
Yep.
I see where you're. Yep.
Yeah. Two things that I want to pick up from what you said. One is you iterate, you go back. So
Right.
the human is still really, really important to analyze it. And then also the iteration, right?
Yes.
Because the first thing is not perfect.
Right.
So I think the human element will never go away. Like you still need to understand the business to make sure that it's doing the right thing, and then you've got the opportunity to iterate more quickly.
Well, I can see you're betting you're not going to be replaced with a prompt.
I'm hoping.
There are people there, who are really into that. And look, prompts have their place. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But if you're really trying to figure out if you're just going to lend money to this person or that person, you better treat the customers in a way that's going to be understandable and consistent with both ethical and legal requirements. It's very difficult to do when you just turn it over to the machine and how it's been trained.
I mean, one of the things, there's an article that came out, I think it was Business Insider, talked about this. When will we see the first one-person unicorn? Right? In a business, like cross $1 billion with one person. And you're seeing some of this. Like, I don't know if you've seen this AI startup that was, I think it's like a 22-year-old valued at $10 billion, right? With maybe like 30 people or something. It's like a small number. But the conversation we're having makes me think about that. Like, are we moving towards that where...
Well, let's just say valuations around things that involve those magic letters AI have become a little frothy, and particularly if
you have a problem against
agentic.
NVIDIA?
I'm not going to cast aspersions on any company that's done as candidly amazing job with the technology. But valuations, I think, are not the way to judge the ultimate success of a company. The ultimate success of a company is judged in how its customers do, and are they able to use it? Is it sustainable? Is it something that's going to really make that company more successful? And that's what we focus on. I think it'll be a ways before you see the one-person unicorn. But we, as you may know, prefer flying horses to unicorns. And so I would say that I'm glad that we were never a unicorn. I would view that sort of an intrusion on our brand promise here. So.
And I guess where I was leaning is this idea that the roles have to change. Right? Like if you think about today, when we talk about design, like you think about that room. This room reminds me of a design thinking room. But you had like 20 people, very specialized, doing different things around design. Like, how does that change given the role that AI will play and solution design in general?
Has to do all of the things.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it can be incredibly empowering because a lot of the historical complexity can actually be facilitated by the AI. So the AI can bring to you an understanding of how to get certain things done, and in addition to having people do it faster, what I think is really super is it has people do it better.
Right.
They get better outcomes
Quality
as a
of
result
it,
of
right?
it. Yeah, I think that's even more important than the speed, though you get both.
Yeah.
One of the things we're going to talk about throughout this series is what is the future of these roles, right? And to Clay's point, 20 people in the room, like you just do this one little thing and you just do this one little thing. And like now with the power of AI, we're asking like the solution designer to kind of play the traditional business analyst role, but be a little bit more hands-on. I
think a lot more hands-on
a lot more hands-on,
Yeah.
right? So then, like to take you way back, I feel like you were at the forefront of this when you called our certification of business analyst business architect. So I'm curious, did you see this coming, or like what were your thoughts?
Well, I always thought that with a model-driven architecture, as we improved it and made it better and safer, easier to use, we would be able to achieve I used the word democratization before of the role, so that people who were less technical would be able to achieve things that otherwise required great technical acumen, or if you had a business that was going to scale to a high level, that you were protected from certain types of mistakes. I think that this has really, the AI and Blueprint has really, from my point of view, amazingly accelerated this democratization.
In my opinion, I think this is the first time that vision will scale at what you were originally thinking that we could scale at.
I think it's as I said, it's a market change in how we think of ourselves and how our customers think of us. And what I love, the word I used earlier, and I'll use it again because I think it's really important, is it's experiential. It's not staring at a blank slate. It's being able to say, hey, there's some stuff we can do for you, human, as an AI, that will prompt you. You're not prompting me.
I love it. You human.
You. Hey,
you're the AI overlord. Now I got it.
You gotta. It's gonna make it so the AI facilitates your thinking, as opposed to, I can remember when people used to, think technology was using Visio or Aris to draw boxes
oh my God.
and diamonds.
You're scaring me now.
It's pretty scary
Aris,
stuff.
That goes. They still exist.
Well, there are
Maybe they have
absolutely.
AI.
I'm sure. Just look at their name. There's an A and there's an I. In there. I'm sure
Get rid of the R in there.
I'm sure they're talking about AI because candidly, everybody.
enough.
But one of the issues is there's so much noise out there.
Yes. Right.
It's really, really hard, I think, for people who are trying to decide what to do and how to do it to make a decision. But to my mind, some of these distinguishing attributes of what we're trying to do, the center-out design thinking, where you really think about your business first, as opposed to getting caught up in screens or data diagrams. You really say, hey, what are we trying to achieve with this business? What are the outcomes? I think that's a huge, important sort of element. And another enormous element is the idea that we're going to use the AI at design time.
Right.
And at runtime, we're going to be very, very predictable in how things operate.
Right.
There's another interesting feature, by the way, which especially for my European customers, I like to point out, which is...
Sales pitch.
We'll put a banner right there on the podcast.
Well, everyone...
It's all good.
Everyone is worried about the use of electricity by AI.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's a big... And how is this going to affect our climate
climate.
and all these people building new data centers and tying them to refurbished nuclear power plants that are going to be able to run to do it. And the observation I would make is that when we're using the heavy-duty AI like Blueprint, that's as guilty as anyone of being able to really take advantage of the full creative and energy-eating power of AI. But when you subsequently run the workflows, after you've gone through the design, when you now run that workflow 10, 100,000, 1 million times, it runs at the speed of workflows, which is literally thousands of times less consumptive of energy
Yeah.
than actually redesigning everything from scratch every time.
All the time.
And I think that that's one of those sorts of things that will really be important to some organizations. And certainly it makes me feel good as we think about what we can do from a sustainability perspective.
It's really cool. So one of the things I wanted to ask and share a little bit, but then ask is, I remember when we first met, right? When I first started at Forrester, this is going back a long time ago.
Clay.
Long time ago. But I just remember, and I'm going to drop names, is we, as a team, Pega team met with me as an analyst at Craigie on Main.
I do
Right?
remember that.
And we had some really good food. But I just remember, this is something that stuck with me my early days of being an analyst, is we were at the table, food came, and you kind of moved the food to the side, took out a marker, and you started drawing on the table,
On the table.
on the table, tablecloth,
Yeah.
and walking me through the layer cake.
Yes.
Right? And I was just like, this guy is on drugs. Like, literally, like, I'm just here to say hello. And you're literally like, and I'm like, is he the CEO? Is he the guy they keep in the closet? But, yeah.
Yeah, we were at dinner, so a layer
Yeah.
cake might have been appropriate, I would say. But I think that's another really important concept for organizations that have a certain size or scale. They really need to think of their businesses as not being silos, but in fact of being a set of interrelated layers that enable you to have reuse and sharing and commonality. This idea, I think, is one that's sustained with us for a long, long time, and is now evolved into this concept of a agentic process fabric, being able to create a fabric across the workflows of your business, which really lets you, operate with the true promise of the center out vision.
Yeah.
So-
and can I add to that for a second?
yeah,
Because
please.
yes, I know
Yes.
all the terms. Yeah, I've been reading the Alan, and he pops into my office and like, can you repeat this? So I know all of those terms. But the thing that I really love about Blueprint, and we did a little bit with App Studio, is that we make the complex simple to dip your toe in the water without losing the possibility of building for the complex.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really, really important, is that when you build something in Blueprint, we're already behind the scenes designing the architecture for that. So I just want to point that out as well.
Yeah, no, it was really key, I think, that we saw Blueprint as an augmentation of what we had been working on for 4 decades.
I see it. I see where you're.
As opposed
Call
to
out.
like doing something new from scratch that somehow is
it's not from scratch.
not tied with something that's proven for the enterprise.
One thing, maybe to start closing out, question we're asking guests is, if you were to fast forward to 2030, right? What would you share as your big bet for what this will look like? Solution design, AI being used for design. What would your big bet that is not obvious for people today be?
Well, I'll tell you, this is a bet that we're actually investing in, and you know about fast forward, right? So
A little bit, a little bit.
So I think this is something that in the next year or two even, you're going to see that vibe concept, which is the ability to have a human kind of partner with AI, or a group of humans able to partner with AI, is going to go up to another level. And you're going to be able to ask the system you want for changes in your language, and the AI will help figure out how to change it in the model.
Oh, I see.
So whether you want to put approvals in for things, or certain rules in for things, or you want to even, God forbid, move things around a screen, being able to just sort of describe what the objective is you want, much as center out lets you think from an objectives point of view, you're going to be able to continue to do that for more and more of what you want to build. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
It's an interesting concept, because I do think about like where you were going. It almost sounds like the vibe is also giving you the ability to change your business or your business model, like extending I mean, people are having this conversation with GPT, like,
Yeah, it's not vibe coding, it's vibe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that transforming and changing businesses, which, as you know, is really
this is
hard,
what you,
Yeah.
right.
is something that this all lets you facilitate, and then you can focus on the change management and human elements. A lot of the technical heavy lifting is increasingly going to be done by AI.
Yeah. Agreed. Right, because I think that's the hardest part is the change management, the human element of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all hard. But
It's all hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
but remember what our tagline is.
Well, so actually,
Winged horses.
yeah, but we changed the way the world builds software. Now, I think with the solution design, what we're trying to do is how we deliver. We're changing the way we deliver software.
And it's all about build for change.
Build for change.
That's been the
That's it.
tagline for at least 20, right? Is that fair? 30?
36 years.
It's held up.
It's held up.
So, well,
Because change
it's
is
changing.
the only constant,
When
right?
change-
Change is the only constant.
when change is built into it, you get to stick with it. I
Yep.
do
Do,
that.
do you think you could have seen this? This is kind of behind the scenes a little bit for a second, but like, if
you
I go
can see
back
everything coming.
15 years, 20 years ago, could you imagine, like, this is where we would be?
I think that we always saw the direction,
Yeah.
but what's exciting is to see how real it's becoming.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has been facilitated by the rapid
Yeah.
evolution here. But things like the layer cake, those have persisted because they just make so much, candidly, they just make so much sense.
Right. And
And,
for
I
business and the way business is.
Yeah, the businesses want to do things in a relative way. The other reason it makes sense is that so much of what we did in the early days, Clay, around business process management,
The old days.
the old
BPM.
days, the BPM, a lot of that was around drawing pictures of
Right.
processes that were flat. I think the real revelation we had here is that it's not just about being flat, it's about being dimensional, that you want to be able to say, hey, I do this differently in this state than in that state. I want to have a common base, but I want to be able to describe the variations and then have the engine handle it, which is, I think, what the magic of the layer cake, magic
Yeah,
of the,
the layer cake
magic of the layer cake
capability.
is. And that is so true, and it's so structurally different than another way of doing it. And I think it's persisted because it works, and I think, to my mind, that's exciting. Now we get to augment it with all this new AI.
Build on it.
Yeah.
And there's so many questions I would have for you, and I want to be mindful.
Yeah, we're over time. But
Are you saying I talk too much?
No.
No,
I think it's
no.
just there's a lot to dig
I
into.
talk too much.
Well,
Well, there's a lot of years that we've been working on.
Yeah.
You told me that I, for decades, would be working on what's basically the same problem, though it looks quite a bit different here. But the problem stayed fresh because the
Yeah.
need of the customers continues.
Well,
to
and I
evolve.
think that's the thing. I've been at Pega, I can't believe, almost 15 years.
Bobblehead time.
I know, I can't wait. It's got to have the pink hair, though, not like when I started. So, but yeah, bobblehead time. But the thing that has kept me just is the problem in that we've had the foundation. Like when you said layer cake, I remember in the old 7 when we had the picture, but it's so accurate even today.
Yeah.
Like we've been talking about this forever, so we're not rewriting anything. We're not redoing our products. It's building on the foundation and just applying the new technology on that foundation, which is why we've been able to move so fast and offer. Again, this is not a sales pitch. I called you out on that, but I'm not a sales pitch. But for me, just as an individual, working at this company, seeing that, and there's been a constant. We're solving those same problems. Now we have even bigger tools in our tool belt to solve that.
Yeah, and that's, to my mind, super exciting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Alan, it's been really good having you, and just
Thank you, Clay.
visionary.
Nice to see you again. Yeah, you can stop in my office and tell me how I did later.
Sorry we stopped you as you were walking in the halls. We kind of pulled you in, but truly appreciate it.
Yep.
Excellent.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks all. And
you.
we'll talk to you both soon, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
All right.
sounds good. All right, awesome. All
Thank
right.
you. Thanks for listening to Design to Accelerate.
This is a space for thoughtful conversations about how people, not just technology, create value.
When we let human judgment lead and AI accelerate, better outcomes always follow.
Follow and subscribe to keep engaging in this meaningful conversation.